to ensure a smooth operation. Well, time now to take our first break. When we come back, we'll take a look at international news. Stay tuned in.
What's your AfriCell number?
773.
What's your mobile number?
735.
What's your AfriCell number?
746.
What's your number?
My number is 215.
2?
You mean 72?
No, it's 2, and I am AfriCell 2.
AfriCell 2? Hey, hey!
Yes, 2 is AfriCell 2.
Hey, hey!
AfriCell introduces the new AfriCell series, the number 2.
Welcoming the number 2 to the AfriCell family.
From now on, the AfriCell lines will not only start with the number 7, but also with the number 2.
Get a new AfriCell SIM card now that starts with the number 2.
So now I can get an AfriCell number that starts with the number 2?
Yes, and when you receive a call from a number starting with the number 2, it's one of the new AfriCell lines calling you. My mobile number is 2, and
We are AfriCell 2!
Welcome back to the news. The international community has denounced the military offensive embarked on by the M23 rebels in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The move came after M23 rebels captured the city of Goma, driving government forces away. As we hear in the CFI report, thousands are fleeing the crisis to neighboring Rwanda.
The new masters now patrol the streets of Goma. The M23 rebels rejected the Congolese government ultimatum and kept their promise. Government forces abandoned the city. M23 now control it and the airport. Goma's inhabitants, left behind, are worried.
Kabila government forces deserted the city. What are we to do now?
Those who can flee only with what they can carry. Thousands have already left the city to escape the fighting. Some are taking refuge on the Rwandan side of the border, especially if they are Beya Malenge and speak Kinyarwanda.
The Congolese army was stopping everybody who spoke Kinyarwanda. They said they have to be killed because the war comes from Rwanda.
Once the Congolese government categorically refused to talk with the rebels, M23 moved in, took the airport and the city. The Congolese government in Kinshasa is calling on the population to mobilize against the aggressor.
We think that the first objective of President Kagame and his government's folly is to prevent the deployment of a neutral force along the border with Rwanda and us, because it will prevent him from continuing the war.
Congolese President Kabila went to the Ugandan capital Tuesday afternoon to discuss the crisis with President Yoweri Museveni. The international community, for its part, has condemned the rebel offensive.
Well, the European Union says it recognizes the Syrian opposition as the only representative of the Syrian people. The declaration was made before European foreign ministers at a meeting in Brussels. And the Colombian guerrilla movement has declared a unilateral ceasefire for 2 months to facilitate dialogue. We have details of these stories and others in this World News Roundup.
The European Union recognizes the Syrian opposition. The announcement was made in Brussels in the presence of European foreign affairs ministers. But contrary to Paris and Rome, the 27 member states do not recognize the coalition as the only representative of the Syrian people. Europeans are also calling on the leaders of the Syrian coalition to present a program which would be a credible alternative to the current Damascus regime. The Colombian guerrilla movement FARC declared a unilateral ceasefire, a 2-month truce announced at the opening of peace talks with the government taking place in Cuba. According to the movement's spokesperson, the move aims to facilitate dialogue. But Bogota is not willing to change its stand. The government delegation affirms that military operations against the FARC will be maintained. In France, a difficult victory for Jean-François Copé in the fight for the presidency of the conservative UMP party, now in opposition. Former Prime Minister François Fillon lost by a narrow margin after the votes were counted again in an atmosphere of tension as the two camps accused each other of fraud. Copé called for unity and offered Fillon the vice presidency. Fillon, who regrets the deep divisions within the UMP, turned down the offer.
Well, let's now take a quick look at the weather report, courtesy of the Central Forecast Office.
The source assures us of a continuous flow, and from there, everything follows. And for those of us who know what the River Gambia stands for, understanding its sustainability in all aspects of life is easily confirmed. The River Gambia provides nutritious delicacies as food, while it provides its wildlife a balanced ecosystem. This river, as a sanctuary, is committed to its inhabitants' needs without ceasing. And as you travel along, all these values are replicated in one company, Elton. Just like the River Gambia, leads in its commitment to values that matter most. Elton, championing the vision for a new generation.
Good evening, and this is the weather news, beginning with a summary of the weather during the day today, followed by our forecast. The Gambia this afternoon was characterized by a warm and sunny atmosphere. For what next, let's start with a look at the satellite image captured at 16:30 hours, indicating spots of medium-level clouds across the Gulf of Guinea states with more developed systems over the central and the southern part of the continent. Northern areas were mainly dry and stable during the period. For our forecast tonight, we're expecting conditions over the Gambia to be relatively cool and dry. It will be misty as we move towards dawn. Daytime will be mainly warm and sunny, and winds will be purely northerly in orientation, but generally light to moderate in speed. Morning temperature values will be either 23 or 22 degrees Celsius across the country. Top temperatures will be 32 degrees Celsius over Banjul. We're expecting 33 degrees Celsius over Yundum. Kerawan, Sibano, Jinoy with 35 degrees Celsius warm. The rest of the Gambia will record 36 degrees Celsius tomorrow afternoon. We're expecting low tides of 0.48 meters at a minute past 10 o'clock in the morning and 0.62 meters at 11 minutes past 10 o'clock in the evening. High tides is 1.60 meters at 3:46 a.m. and 1.36 meters at 4:42 p.m. Wave heights vary between 1 to 2 meters and will be mainly northerly swells. The sun will rise at 8 minutes past 7 o'clock in the morning and will set at 27 minutes to 1900 hours. Next is the international forecast, and do have a very good evening.
Yasin, and before we go, reminder of headlines. President Jammeh Monday made a surprise tour of streets in Banjul to see firsthand the condition of roads in the capital city. Vice President Jai said he has met with the Canadian ambassador to the Gambia, who was at the State House to discuss means of bolstering Banjul-Toronto ties. Thousands have been fleeing Goma as M23 rebels captured a strategic Congolese city, sidestepping UN peacekeeping and government forces operating in the area. And the European Union has released a statement recognizing the Syrian opposition as the country's legitimate representatives, whilst calling on the rest of the world to follow suit. That brings us to the end of the news. Thank you very much for your time. I am Fatou Kamara, and have a good night.